Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Journey Podcast with Michael and Ryan. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you everyone for being here. It's been a good journey getting here. And today we're going to be talking about something that's a little taboo.
Something that's a little taboo.
And that's taboos.
Taboo itself. Yeah. It's really interesting, the meaning of taboo, right? How many contexts it has. I think we've spoken about it on this podcast before, but one of our teachers, older teachers that we've gone through and worked with, Atlas, he's deep into like taboo and actually removing the meaning of taboo from it, because it's just a concept that we've created that's been given to us through society or religion or parental upbringing about what's bad and what's good. Ultimately it's all just a human expression. So why is something taboo?
And it's sort of a meaning, or the definition has been corrupted, because when you do have a look at the origin of the word taboo, it's just looking at spiritual practices and essentially like guidelines, right, around good things and bad things. But when we look at society as a whole, when you think of the word taboo, essentially it means negative things that we shouldn't do, say, or talk about, or ways in which we shouldn't be.
Well, exactly. Like where did something come from within us that thinks something is taboo? That's the real question, right? I mean, if you want to look at spirituality is just truly looking at what's within you, questioning. It's like, okay, what's taboo?
And who's to say something that's within you is right or wrong?
Agreed. Well, I dissolve right and wrong. There's just comfortable and uncomfortable, and I think, we're quick to have been given the fact that something is uncomfortable, it's bad.
Yeah, that's it. There's a perception around anything that makes us feel uncomfortable as it being wrong, right, or something that we should avoid, when realistically, if it feels uncomfortable, it's really merely just a guide, something pointing us in a direction of maybe something that we need to work through, or something that we need to overcome within ourselves, or even something that maybe we enjoy or like, but aren't actually giving ourselves permission to fully engulf, to fully consume, to fully allow to be alive within us.
And then that shame monster comes out. The shame monster.
Dude, little beast.
Oh, it is. Obviously, sexuality and all the involvement with all of that, there's lots of taboos. And I think, you look at how easily accessible pornography is now, and just the hardcoreness of it. I remember when I was a young lad, I was, pinching my dad's Playboys. There was a black and white photo with a 1970s bush on there, and that was enough for me. We run lots of groups. We've done lots of men's groups, and I never tell anyone how to live. However, I emphatically stand by, like, if you're watching porn, cut that shit out. There is nothing good that can come from watching porn.
Why?
For me, it's the removal of the deepening of your own sexual energy. You are creating these neuro pathways of a screen by completely fake sex as well. So you're creating these, the fantasy in your head. It's an open gateway, into the depths of, if you've got a beautiful partner in front of you, and you're deep in porn, you've got these expectations of how things should go, because it's such a powerful thing to do, to orgasm and come, and you are hardwiring yourself to what that pleasure is.
Well, it makes it easy, right? And it actually gives us a false idea of what sex and intimacy and relationships are. And if that's affecting you in a negative way, then definitely porn should not be in your life.
Yeah, I guess it all comes down with intention though, right? But even just a little bit, I think if you truly started to understand and cultivate your own sexual energy, and especially us as men, and stop chasing the orgasm or the ejaculation, and actually understand the cultivation of your own sexual power and how profound that can be in your life. You're not just shooting out, your shots.
Yeah, it's shooting out a load and then it's done, right? You roll over and go to sleep. Yeah. But for most people, that's what sex is, right? Sex is merely fucking.
Yeah, yeah.
Having sex, intercourse, penetration, and sex actually isn't anything beyond that. It's like when you come, you're done. If you finish first, then it's unfortunate for your partner. If she finishes first, then, well, good on you.
Well, I mean, I guess I would say I learned sex from watching porn as a young guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had sex ed in school, but
they didn't teach you how to have sex.
No, there was the protection thing and whatever else they went into, but and that's softcore stuff compared to what's now. And I mean, we're a generation of. I remember when you used to go on the internet, it would take you at least 20 minutes to download like one picture, and you're like, hey, that's it. There's no free streaming videos or anything like that. But I guess that on itself is a taboo. It's just sex in general, right? It's like in our Western civilization, anyways, I would imagine. But looking back, and I remember my first sexual experiences and how I remember my first time, and I was 13, she was 13, we were a boyfriend girlfriend at school, and it was awkward and all the things it should have been. However, I still remember what was going through my mind of actually how to do this, and I was just flashing back to actually some of these pornos that I'd watched, because that's the only reference that I had, and I'm sure it's just gotten so much easier and open now, and If there's no softcore stuff now, and if young men and young ladies are watching these things and they're thinking that that's it, well, it's not. It's just purely physical, and there's such a non, deep polarity in it. It's just
it's not about connection, right? It's not about intimacy. But no, you can definitely find porn
I think it's changing now for sure.
So I suppose even when it comes to that, even the conversation that we're having is actually even creating a taboo, right? Because it's creating an idea of something being right or wrong, or even something that can create shame, which is like, this is why I suppose it makes taboos so confusing and so challenging to sort of navigate, because I suppose there is a moral line in everything, but then it's understanding about, okay, cool, why is it that I find shame in it? Why is it that I can't express myself in this way, And there's so many different people looking to express themselves in so many different ways, right? Like when you have a look at all the different genders that are around these days, and the way in which people see themselves and express themselves, whether it's male, female, or otherwise. And then even when you look into like sexualities, there's things like furries, so it's like, who are we to actually say that that's not something that, or not a way in which they should be allowed to express themselves.
Correct.
And that's essentially what taboos go back to, right? It's like someone telling you that you're not allowed to express yourself or be a certain way because of societal norms.
Yeah, and then again, that shame monster comes out and has to be driven underground into smaller groups. I just had a thought. If there was no taboo, would people be attracted to it still? If it didn't have that taboo, this is something I'm into and not many other people, and it creates a little bit more of that excitement, right? Like if it was just purely open and everything, it was just explorative and normal, it's like, I want to go over and, wear a plush suit while I have sex, it's great.
Well, I think if there was no taboo, it's like we wouldn't be having this conversation, because people would just be allowed to do it, and it wouldn't even be a thought that it was something strange or different or wrong, right?
There's a fine line between taboo and conscience, though, right?
Yeah,
because the conscience is guiding you, right? And then again, this is where the awareness comes in of, is it going, am I going against what is my own moral virtue, my values, or am I exploring something to find my edge and boundary? Or is this, again, just a thing that I got told or society says that I'm not allowed to do, so it excites me to actually go into that and to now hide in it or something like that.
Yeah, the idea of being a rebel, right? The idea of trying something new or pushing a boundary or pushing what people feel is okay. Definitely, it could be a multitude of those things. It could be one, it could be two, it could be a combination. You know, and again, that's why it does become something that's an interesting thing to have a conversation about, right?
It's even like for men, I guess, right? You know, the prostates in our up our anal, and you know, all of our pleasure center is up there, right? You know, and you know, if you're a heterosexual man, you know, as both as we are, and you know, you're exploring with your partner, and you start moving into, you know, a bit of ass play and moving around, and you know, there's
shame in it.
There's the things you need to see that pop up. Oh, this could be gay, and things like everything that we've popped up, right? And so again, it's just these bullshit stories and paradigms that are passed on to us.
Script, stories, and ideas, right? Because that would have been it, right? Like the idea of someone giving you pleasure through your ass, and potentially reaching the prostate, and you even exploring what that feels like, can create shame. You know, even on my own sexual journey and sexual exploration, it's like going to that place the first few times, it's like, fuck, you know, the body closes up because there's so many stories going around of like, oh man, what if people found out that this is actually what I enjoy? You know, so you're not actually allowing yourself to be present in the moment and present with pleasure. You're already creating a story about what other people and how other people might perceive you, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like that moment is just it's a creation of shame, because you're actually taking yourself away from the experience and allowing yourself to fully feel something that you might enjoy, or you might fucking hate it.
Well, exactly. And you're denying yourself fucking pleasure.
Yeah, and you're denying yourself the exploration of self. Because who are you to know whether or not you like it or not until you actually allow yourself to try it?
Yeah, I agree. You know, look, for the word, I fucking enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's great when you're in a deep, trusting, loving partnership and you're just exploring each other. I'm all for it all. You know, like it's because you don't know what your edges are, and then going beyond them to see what's actually on the other side. Because again, it's a mind limitation belief.
Yeah,
it's ultimately just pleasure. It's eros. It's the divine that's running through us. It's the human that creates these barriers of no, that's not right and not right. It's like, well, fuck that. You know, who's to tell me it's not right or not wrong?
Definitely.
You know?
And why would you take yourself away from something that could potentially give you pleasure? And it's like, even when we're looking at sexuality, it's like sexuality realistically it has something to do with sex, but sexuality isn't all just about sex.
No.
You know, that's just an act that gives you pleasure, and is a way in which you can connect deeper with your partner.
Cultivate intimacy.
Yeah, cultivate intimacy. That's a beautiful way of putting it. Cultivate intimacy. And it's like, if you don't allow yourself to try different things, and predominantly your sexual relationship is like just in missionary or doggy style, even though, you know, they still bring pleasure, it's like, what do you actually know about what your partner likes? What do you actually know about what you like? Correct. You know, if you don't actually give yourself an opportunity to like explore the different parts of them, you know, in different moments.
Yeah, and then you're building more and more trust. More and more trust. The deeper the trust, the higher the lust.
Oh, I like that. Oh,
hey?
Write that one down, people.
The deeper the trust, the higher the lust. And you know, and the levels of trust are infinity. Like you can continue to go deeper.
Yeah,
you know, and with the depths of that, that's where the polarity. You know, and I'm not talking about men and women. I'm talking about masculine, feminine polarity here. You know, it's creating two very strong magnets that are attracted to each other.
For sure.
You know, and having that flow and understanding in the masculine energy, it's the leading, it's the dominating, it's the creating the safety, and in the feminine flow, it's the submission, and it's the well, again, it's the softness of it. But when you start playing in those polarities, it's really understanding that the true power comes from deep submission.
Yeah.
And then you have to step up, if you're in that dominating position, to truly lead in a beautiful, profound way. And it's, you know, and again, you know, this would be considered taboo to a lot of people, I guess, you know, but
that's why we're here, baby.
100%. But it's and it's definitely something I am now on a life journey to explore more and deeper and just really play in those levels, because there's so much to it. There's the trust level, there's the intimacy, there's the different energetic polarities of masculine, feminine. There's, you know, I'm a very masculine guy. You know, that's my personal eros that I roll through. However, you know, the last little while I've really been tuning into my feminine and doing lots of kind of work on that, and I'm finally really starting to feel and cultivate the differentness of it. And since doing that, I really feel the true power in the feminine flow. It's like the masculine's here, but it's actually led by the feminine flow, you know, in the submission, you know.
Yeah. I guess when it comes to that, and there's sort of an idea that was popping into my mind when you were talking about that idea of the masculine and the feminine, and especially when it comes to sexuality, right? Like it all comes through communication.
Correct.
Like communicating with your partner, like, does this feel good or does this feel bad? And even that in itself can create shame, because it's like the idea of sexuality, there is so much pressure to be good. You know, especially if you're a man, there's so much pressure to be good. And what if you did something that didn't feel good, right? So it's like, that's a story in itself. And so you have to actually push through that boundary and allow yourself to get it wrong for you to actually explore what you like and what your partner likes.
And it's asking for what you want to happen.
Michael, don't swear at me.
You know?
Don't fucking swear at me.
Like, but again, when it's true trust and safety, then
Definitely.
you know, there could be something in you that's just, you know, you've considered dark and depraved, right? But ask for it. You know, ask for it, and then that's the taboo, right? That's the taboo of ask for it.
Ask for what you want.
Ask for what you want, or what you'd like to go, and actually feel into it. And that's sometimes the hardest thing, if not the hardest thing, to be like, okay, you know, you like feel it, and you're like, oh, okay, am I going to be seen to be a weirdo, or am I going to, you know, all of those things.
What if my partner judges me because I asked for something?
But then there's already self-judgment on that, right? It's just a projection.
And that's actually taking you away from the moment, taking you away from being in pleasure. And that's such a shame. It is such a shame, but it is. It's something you really just have to learn. You know, you have to learn, and it's like you might ask for something in your relationship, and at that moment, your partner might be like, "Nah, I don't want to do that." But that doesn't mean that you can't ask for it again, and you can't communicate with your partner about, "Hey, can we look at exploring these different things?" Because just because they didn't want to explore that in that moment, doesn't necessarily mean that that's something that they don't want to explore at all.
Correct. And you know, it might be just the level of trust that they feel to move into that side. And it's just like, okay, well, what can I do to create ultimately more trust? And again, it's communication, it's consistency, it's showing up, it's doing what you will say you're going to do. You know, it all seems very simple, but it's profound.
For sure. And it's like, when you're exploring yourself sexually, it doesn't have to be about spontaneity all the time. It's actually being about, okay, cool, let's set aside some nights this week where we're actually going to sit down and explore each other. You know, give yourself time to actually explore each other, because we're all so busy, you know. Personally, I don't have kids, but if people have kids, they've got work, they've got exercise they've got to do, they've got to cook all these healthy meals, they've got to meditate, journal, do all the things. It's like you get to the end of the day, and if sex isn't something you've allowed yourself to make time for, then more often than not, it can potentially just feel pressured. It could just be like, it's another thing I have to do.
A task,
right?
And then where's the intimacy in that?
For sure, because you're just thinking about it finishing so you can roll over and go to sleep.
You're just using each other as an external masturbatory tool.
Well, that's it. That's it.
I think, you know, I reflect back on my young lad days, you know. you know, here's a description. I was the predominantly fuck boy, you know, wild boy from the age of about 19 right through my 20s, and I look back on the sexual experiences, and look, I was involved in lots of explorative sexual experiences. However, they're all drug fueled. You know, they're all chemical fueled. So there are edges that I pushed and things like that. But however, it was all drug fueled back in those days. Now it's not. It's completely, the intention is completely different. It's explorative in a deeper spiritual connection, intimacy way, and communication is all of that. You know, and I'm all for exploring, you know, air quote taboos, you know, and just seeing what is pleasurable, because follow the pleasure. Why would you that's, you know, I'm not a religious man in the deity context, but that's got to be one of the devil's greatest tricks, right? You know, make you feel shame on something that's pleasurable. It's you follow pleasure your whole life, you'll be winning. Sure. You'll be like, what feels pleasurable here? Does it not? Does it not? Or does it? Okay, well, let's go down the pleasurable path. You know, and I'm talking in everything: job, interactions with people in your life, friends. You know, I think that's well, I mean, again, that's a taboo as well. Oh, I can't drop these people. I've known them for my whole life. Oh, they're adding to your life. Drop some people from your fucking life. I think lots of people need to do that. People have anchors and are anchors. You know, and it's a big thing for people to have those realizations, because we're so attached to the paradigm of, oh, I've known them for X amount of years, so that must be, well, if you're on the evolution or the growth train, and people around you aren't, it's going to be inevitable. You know.
Yeah, and I suppose it's about accepting that it's okay. It's okay to let people go if they're no longer giving to your life. And it doesn't mean you need to do it in an aggressive way. It's just like, naturally, if you allow it, it will just stop being a relationship, stop being a friendship. And it doesn't mean that when you come together, you can't have those experiences of being together, because that moment might still bring you some form of pleasure. But if they're not contributing to your life, would you be spending all your time with them? Why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah. I think the context of taboo, I think it's because I truly believe anything can be anything, right? And anything can be anything the way we want to make it. You know, like even ex-partners and relationships and things like that, you know, as long as there's communication, and, you know, then there may need to be boundaries set, but anything could be anything. You can still be a best friend with someone who you are deeply committed to post a romantic relationship, because those feelings and knowing and knowledge of each other doesn't change. You know, it's just there can be path programs that pop up, or barriers and things that go, and it's like, okay, yes, time needs to happen, I guess, but there can be the ability for anything to be anything. You know, and I think if you're rising above and just kind of deeply feeling your love, you know, and kind of following that path, you know, like here's a great example. My sister, Bianca, I love her dearly. She's married to her beautiful husband, Caleb. He's awesome as well. They've got 4 kids. And her firstborn, Brody, she had with her ex, who's still my friend, Brett. And her and Brett and Caleb, they're all best mates. And when Brett was married as well again, like, they all hung out, they all go on weekends, you know, and it's such a powerful thing. It's a beautiful thing, you know, because it doesn't have to be the way, you know, and some people will find that taboo. Well, how can you do that? How can you do that? It's like, well, you can have it as anything, you know. Like, don't let your shit get in the way of how something can be, how beautiful it can be, and it's so pleasurable, you know. They spend Christmases together, and they go on holidays together, and how amazing is it for Brody to have that environment growing up?
Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, it can be completely opposite. You know, if the person or the person that you were in a relationship is no longer serving you, then why? You don't need to make it work.
Oh, absolutely, no, 100%. You know, it can be as it needs to be. You know?
But I guess the point you're trying to make is the idea of it needs to be a certain way, right? Like a breakup has to be challenging. A breakup has to push each other apart. And even the idea of breaking up, I mean, it has such a negative connotation to it.
I call it uncoupling.
Yeah, uncoupling or decoupling. I mean, it gives it a more positive framework, because it's not about things going wrong and snapping, breaking something you have to rebuild. It's actually about, okay, no, we were growing together to a certain point and then we just stopped, so why would we not just allow ourselves to move away?
Yep, correct. Okay, can be there. But I'd like you to tell the listeners about how your weekend went, actually. We were talking about taboos, and I think this is beautiful. Tell us what went on, Ryan.
So, we actually just had even just talking into that idea of sexuality. Sexuality has always been a challenging journey to explore, because there always was that idea of shame around it. There was always that idea of not being good enough, the idea of what it should be. And I suppose just as my own exploration, my own evolution, exploring sexuality at a deeper level with myself and with my partner, and understanding the things that bring us pleasure and don't bring us pleasure, and even playing into those dynamics of the masculine and feminine and dominance and submissive. It's like taking us onto a path of where we do want to explore our own sexuality more. You know, we do want to bring other people into our relationships and see if that's something that we want to explore, an experience that we want to have, or just to see if it's something that we don't want to explore.
Correct.
And as we were saying before, you're not really going to know what you like or if it's for you until you give yourself permission to actually try it and explore it. So we've sort of got to this point where that's what we want to do. We want to explore those different aspects of ourselves. You know, we want to give ourselves that permission to feel pleasure in other ways and explore what feels good. So we had the beautiful opportunity in the weekend to go to like what would you call it?
Well, it was a kink.
Yeah, it was a kink
bondage party. Like it was amazing. You know, they called it Merry Kinkmas.
Merry Kinkmas.
It was great. It was beautiful. Like they had 4 zones set up. There was the DJ area, so if you just wanted to kind of dance and party and things, you could just do that. Then out the back, it was a private club as well. Then on the back left hand side, there was a bit of a what do you call it? A straddle horse there, where you could get tied up and get flogged there. And they had an X bar up there, so you can do different things, different BDSM kind of scenarios. Then in the right hand side room, there was actually a room if you wanted to kind of play a little bit more and move into the actual sex acts and things like that. They had that there. So there was that's setting the scene for the event we're at.
Yeah. And I guess stepping through the door, it was such a place of unknown. Because it was something that me and my partner had spoken about, and even before going into the situation, we were talking about, okay, cool, like, what are we going to explore? What if something happens? What's our boundaries? What do we need? What do we need support in? If I say, like, I want to go home, you're open to that. If she says, hey, look, I want to go home, we're open to that. So we sort of set some guidelines, communicated about what we wanted beforehand, so that we weren't just walking into a situation where we hadn't been before, and there was actually no boundaries set. There was no communication. There was no understanding about what she wanted and what I wanted, which was a beautiful way to go into it. Because as soon as we walked into the situation, into the party or the scenario, the event, there was a lot of anxiety, because it's like, wow, you're going into a environment when we actually didn't know anyone that was there except for the people that invited us, and that in itself, I suppose, brings on a lot of anxiety, or can do. You know, regardless of who you are, you're going to feel some little level moving into a new situation, and then it was just walking into that and going through it and just communicating how we felt about the things that were going on, and it took about half an hour to sort of settle in, talking to a few people, making yourself comfortable. And it was early in the night, so, things were starting off slow. They didn't really build up.
Had a couple of mushroom caps.
Because, that's what the things that we like to explore. It's the feelings that we like to have, right? Yep. And, sort of going into that situation, and me and Venusi were just sort of watching people. And it was beautiful. Something that actually gave me a lot of permission and understanding about sexuality and my own sexuality was just watching people watch people in pleasure. And now you guys are probably thinking, oh, well, they were just watching people fuck. But that wasn't it.
No, it was not the energy.
Not at all. It was merely just watching people
in full acceptance.
Yeah, have someone else do something to them that gives them pleasure. And it's not even a sexual act.
No.
You know, it could just be someone being caressed, or someone's having their hands rubbed through their hair, or someone just being like lightly paddled or slapped with a whip. And the beautiful thing to see was there was no aggression. There was a beautiful amount of consent. People will be like, does that feel good to you? And you'd be like, yes, no, otherwise. And it was just an exploration of that. And it was beautiful because it was like, man, it gave me a different perception of what sex is. It gave me a different perception of what pleasure is. And it ultimately gave me permission to just be like, and feel safe enough to explore sexuality a little bit more.
And it was just a beautiful openness. And, you know, obviously it was an invite-only event, you know, like, and the people there were obviously like a bit of a tight crew. But it was just a complete openness, you know, like it just really was. And that's how the energy was there. And, you know, if you went up and asked someone some questions about something, they would happily answer. If they didn't know, they go, I don't know, go and talk to this person. It was, I mean, I had a bit of a different night than you, but however, it was still just as beautiful to be amongst all of that. And again, just witnessing just people exploring and understanding and
the exploration
and the
of
consent and trust. You know, you could tell the people who are obviously, you know, very versed, and they had lots of trust with each other, and it was amazing to see.
And so ultimately we just started talking to some people, me and my partner, and we were exploring ourselves in a few different ways, and people would come up and you'd just have conversations with people, and we spoke to them. We were like, hey, look, this is actually something that we're really, really new to, but it's something that we want to explore. Can you just tell us about it? Like,
so there you go, vulnerability, right?
Yeah, tell us about your experience. Tell us about what you enjoy about it, you know? And so we had this beautiful lady just sort of guide us through it for like half an hour. We were just standing there talking to her. She was talking to us about like what polyamory is for her. She was talking a lot about consent. And ultimately, she just said, like, polyamory, and one of the big things that she realizes that it is that we all have different needs, desires, and wants. And sometimes your partner can't actually facilitate that need, desire, or want. So it's like, I might enjoy a different aspect of sex that my partner may not. And that doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to explore that, but it potentially gives you permission to explore that with someone that does like to do that act.
On a non-emotional capacity.
On a non-emotional capacity. And that was one of the big things that sort of made me land in a beautiful place with it, is like, you always have your partner, and your partner's there as a rock. Your partner's there as someone that you can go to. It's someone that you can communicate with. It's someone that you love dearly. It's someone that will be there when shit hits the fan. You know, it'll be someone there that will be there every day for you to celebrate life and the joys of it. It'll be like a financial anchor. It'll be plans for the future. It'll be the person that you're going to marry. And that's essentially just like love and connection and understanding. And the thing that you're exploring with polyamory is everything that's outside that, because you're giving yourself permission to essentially just have other people around that you can explore sexually. And the beautiful thing that she said was like, it's all about communication, because my partner asked, like, fuck, what if you get jealous? And she goes, I get fucking jealous all the time. How can I not? I'm fucking human. Of course I'm going to get jealous. But it's about understanding where that jealousy comes from, and then also communicating and being open with your partner about something that they might be doing that doesn't feel okay, all right, or doesn't feel right for you, or they might be in a certain situation with a certain someone, and you feel like them being in that situation with someone for an extended period of time is actually taking away from the connection you have with yourself. So merely you just communicate to your partner, hey, look, I feel like you're spending too much time with so-and-so. Is it okay if we just tone that down for a little bit? And your partner then has the opportunity to either say, yeah, I agree with you, that's something that we can do. I respect our relationship enough to be like, okay, cool, this sexual partner that I have, I'll just stop spending as much time with them.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's all like communication is the biggest thing. And it's like you can see where you're in one of those situations where you can get engulfed in emotions and in the moment, and you might, because you haven't learnt how to communicate, that you might maybe allow yourself to do something that maybe you weren't yet ready for. And the beauty of the situation that we were in is like every time that people would explore a different aspect of us or explore a different aspect of my partner, they would ask.
They would ask, permission.
They would ask permission. They were like, hey, look, is this okay? And you'd be like, yes or no. And so you're given an opportunity. If they said no, and then they would say, what do you want me to do? And it's like, oh, beautiful. Okay, I want you to do this. I want my head to be rubbed in this certain way. I want my back to be scratched in a certain way. And it was beautiful because it's given me a greater understanding of sex and sexuality and permission and understanding and communication and exploration. And ultimately, it's actually brought, like, energetically, I feel like me and my partner are so much deeper and closer now after fucking 3 hours.
Oh, I feel that.
Spending time with other people who
well, they were very well seasoned.
Oh, very well seasoned, definitely. And it was funny because, like, I was in the moment and I was exploring it, and I was like, it's so interesting to watch these people guide you through a situation that they've obviously guided a lot of other people through, because it's like they know the cues, they know the understanding of it, and it's like they're essentially potentially even just massaging you into relaxation. But it's like I'm conscious and aware enough to see that it was going on, but at the same time it's something I wanted to allow myself to experience.
It was pleasurable, brother, and you're following the pleasure train.
And just following that pleasure, right? And then something would happen and I'd be like, nah, that's not something I want to do, or no, that's something that I'm actually not okay for you to do with my partner right now. And it was beautiful.
Yeah, I definitely feel Van's a lot softer in her feminine energy since then, you know. I definitely feel the closest between you two since that. You know, because you got to think about the actual trust that's got developed between you two, right?
Yeah.
And the witnessing of each other, and they're asking, can I do this to your partner? And then you're actually going, okay, can I or can I?
Yeah, and it's actually knowing. I think a big thing as well is actually knowing your partner as well.
Correct.
Because beautiful, man, she's so fucking amazing, and energetically she's just so open and so free, and sexually she's so open and free. Although she can get caught up in emotions and moment and energy and sexuality. So it's like I knew that she was getting to that point where we spoke about things where we would draw a line, and she was moving into that place just through the exploration. And then so I was just like, hey, look, let's just call it there. That's probably enough. Because we've had some discussions. We spoke about like what was okay, or like what was not okay, where we were going to allow ourselves to explore to tonight. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. And they were like, beautiful, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for telling us what you're okay with. And it was just like, fuck, man, so fucking easy.
So easy with just speaking your truth.
Yeah, and just like asking for what you want, and then allowing yourself to voice what you don't want.
Correct.
It's beautiful.
It was beautiful to witness, man. Like, as I said, I was having a bit of a different night, obviously. But it was beautiful just to like look over every now and then and just see you guys in amongst it. It just put the biggest smiles on my face, and I just was just cheering you on from the sidelines, just going, perfect. Like, I didn't even come over and see you. I was like, leave them be, you know. And I just saw you two just going and exploring with these other couple, and guys were moving around and doing things, and I was it warmed my heart, because I was just, this is what these experiences are for. This is the expansion of life, of the human experience, taking the taboo out, setting intentions, being communicative, finding whether you like something or not, and then communicating that, and not denying yourself anything that actually feels good because of some construct that sits within you.
For sure. And that's it's like allowing desire, and like, I suppose it's a knife edge. You're going to be playing on a little bit of a knife edge, and at the same time, you're potentially going to get it wrong. But it's like, if you have a strong enough relationship where communication is already a foundation,
Correct.
which it is, it means that you can allow yourself to go to that place. And if something goes wrong, then you can communicate and you can talk about it, or you can stop things before, things get a little messy. And it's beautiful because it's like you're allowing yourself to feel into desire, because there used to be so much shame and desire around, like, just desiring other women, right? And even for Van, like, her desiring other men. And we were talking about this on the way home, and she was like, man, the couple there, they were just so fucking beautiful. Like, they were extremely attractive, amazing bodies, beautiful. And we were both just talking about how beautiful they were and how sexually attracted we were to them.
Yep.
And it was funny because she was like, I don't even know these people, but I'm sexually attracted to them. So it's just giving yourself that opportunity to explore more. And do we need to know those people? No. You don't, because that's not what you're there for.
Marry them, right?
No, exactly. You're literally there for them to service you and you to service them, and for you guys to explore a situation together.
But what's the paradox here is that's ultimately a deeper level too, right? Because now you're playing on a realm of the 3D and 5D realm, because you're going deep into your own desire, which is the deep thing that most people actually deny, and you are going into your own self, into their self. And true open communication, well, it creates a level of trust that, emotionally reactive people you don't get with.
Yeah, and it will ultimately force our relationship to be even stronger, because it will need to be.
Of course it will.
Yeah.
Of course it will. I mean, you look at those two, right? They're literally like the one unit, They know their heart. They this is what they do. They've mastered the craft of what they actually desire and want to move into, and they've tried it all. And now they're in the ability to be able to go, hey, look, here's these people that, who are asking things. Okay, great. Well, let us, help you and teach you and hold you. It's the student teacher.
Definitely. And the beautiful thing around, like, there was at no point did it feel seedy or wrong.
No.
And you're in a group with 80 other people. And there was moments where we were, working through things, exploring ourselves, and I would look around and there's a group of 5 or 6 people just watching you.
Correct.
Just watching you. And at no point did I feel like the eyes were on me. There was no point did I feel like there was judgment cast upon the self. And it was beautiful, either internal judgment or external judgment from other people. It was fucking freeing.
Beautiful. That's powerful. Fucking freeing.
It was fucking freeing.
Yeah. And if you allowed the constructs of taboo to hold you back, then you would not have been able to explore this part of a deeply human experience.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because there's potential to go into that situation, judge all of these people who you've never met, and leave. Yeah.
But you said it earlier too. If you didn't have already that solid trusting foundation in your relationship,
Definitely.
Through already all the work that you guys have done to get to this point, to be like, hey, look, let's go and explore this.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened as it happened.
Oh, definitely. It's like there's no way do I want to explore this as a way to get away from what I can explore with Van.
Correct.
No, and it's not a way to get away from our own relationship, or like spice things up or make things better.
Yeah. You're not on a knife edge thinking, okay, we need to do something drastic here to try and do it. No, this is a deep spiritual polarity driven exploration of how can you deepen yourself together.
Definitely. And it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. And there's so much taboo around it and so much shame that I would have felt around this in the past. I wouldn't have even allowed myself to explore the idea, but now there's an opportunity to explore it. If it works, it works. If it works for a while, it works for a while. If it doesn't feel like something that feels right for us or myself, then it's communication in a situation that we just go through. It's just navigating it as it comes up,
and it's a lived experience that you went through that ultimately, in yours and Van's world, is deepening and strengthening and more trusting in your relationship.
For sure.
What a beautiful thing. How could something like that ever be taboo? right? It's again, we speak about it all the time. Everything comes down to your intention.
Well, and like everything, like every time that we're speaking about something, every time we think about that idea of taboo, the thing that's been like repeating in my mind, and I've been waiting for the opportunity to say it, is like taboo is just another form of control.
Correct.
Like it's the ultimate form of control. If you can create shame around people exploring themselves and accepting themselves, then that's the ultimate form of manipulation.
You know, speaking freely here, the church has got a lot to answer for that.
Fucking hell.
You know, you think about the kind of, you know, paganism and type all of that was kind of before the deep Roman Church Catholicism, Christianity kind of take over, and it was a judgmental deity that was judging yourself and took away all the sexual kind of energy and pleasurable things from life, you know. And people, you know, I mean, think of the Middle Ages and think before then, I mean, it was taboo. Wasn't you wouldn't assume it would be much of a thing. It's kind of the construct of the last, what would you say, 600 years, maybe 700 years, maybe earlier in different pockets, but as a Western civilization. But yeah, it's a control mechanism. You can control sexual energy, you can control sexuality. You are controlling the world. It's the most powerful energy outside of love, which is God, right? But ultimately the actual energy of sexual energy, if you can take that away from people,
it's abundance.
You are controlling people.
Yeah, it's abundance, right? And sex ties into money. Like they're energetically, they are
Correct.
so deeply entwined, right? Because it is all about that idea of money, you know. And even the shame around money is essentially another taboo. It's another thing that we shouldn't talk about. We shouldn't tell people how much we make, you know, because there's the judgment there around it, right?
Yep, exactly. What you're spending on, or, you know, again, this is just comes down to intention. Why are you doing it? You know, is there an ego thing for you to show off to people, or is it actually because you fucking want a Lamborghini because you worked your ass off and you're manifesting the shit out of your life and you're on a roll and you're like, I just want a goddamn Lamborghini, right? For no one else but me. You know, it's like, there's no shame in that.
Well, and it like it's just like another seed that's been planted in our mind, the idea that people with money aren't good people.
Well, you think about the cartoons and things we used to grow up as. I mean, you look at Scrooge McDuck. You know, he's an evil. And most people in movies and cartoons are, you know, they've got this badness to them of how they got money. You know, and it's just being aware of what's been programmed into us. Really, you know. I think it's money. Money's the same as sexual energy, I guess. It's going to bring out whatever's, it's going to magnify whatever's kind of in you, right? It's ultimately, I mean, years and years ago, I used to take the old steroids and things like that, you know, and people go, oh, you get roid rage. I just said, no, I don't, you know, because I'm not, it's not in me to be an angry person, you know. However, you know, I worked hospitality for about 10 years in my early days, and you see some people who are bloody mean drunks when they get drunk, you know. It's ultimately, well, that's, you take the veil off, and you lose the inhibitions, and they're nasty. You know, they're not holding themselves back anymore.
Yeah,
and I think that's the magnification of kind of money and sexual energy as well. You know, if you've got presuppositions to you know, what would I say, to kind of like being the asshole to women and all that kind of wounded little boy shit that's happened to you and you've dragged on through into adulthood. Yep. Well, that's the type of sexual energy you're going to put out unless you go and do some fucking deep inner work healing and start witnessing and holding yourself to account and having people hold you to account.
Definitely.
You know, and this is where the thing of men, especially holding other men to account for their shitty behavior.
Definitely.
You know, especially towards women.
Definitely. Well, they're so much more vulnerable, right? And they don't have the physical stature that a man does to protect themselves. So if you're going to use the fact that you're bigger than someone as a means to control, then you're just a nasty piece of shit.
Correct.
And when we look into that idea, it actually has nothing to do with whether people have money or not, because there's people who have nothing that are nasty pieces of shit. There's people that are doing all right that are nasty pieces of shit. There's people that have a medium amount of money that are nasty pieces of shit. There's people that are fucking billionaires that are nasty pieces of shit. And I suppose it's just easier to, I guess, cut the poppy that's the tallest, right?
It is, yeah, absolutely. It's just interesting, right? But it is a great topic to talk about, taboo. Like, if you start actually unpacking it, there's a lot. I mean, when you say taboo to someone, instantly they're going to go down the sexual route, right?
Well, that's taboo.
Yeah. Or their thoughts will go, oh yeah, taboo sex, taboo this. I mean, that's the control that's been so imparted into us. But you know, the taboos can move into anything. The taboos could be actually holding back what you actually want to say because you feel that someone will react from it. You know, taboos can be dulling yourself down, not expressing yourself in the fullness of your own fucking divinity because you are worried about what other people may think. You know, that's the taboo as well. It's all a taboo, right? Because you're holding it to yourself as a taboo. You know, letting yourself get grossly overweight, that's a fucking taboo. You know, and I mean, that would be one of the biggest plagues on planet Earth right now. It's just processed food, you know, morbid obesity that's leading to all these chronic illnesses, you know. And
it's one of those things. It's like, yes, talking about weight and size is an extreme taboo, and it's an interesting one to navigate, right? Because if you were to say to someone who is grossly overweight, hey, look, if we could flick a switch and you were in your perfect body weight, you felt comfortable in your body, would you do it? I guarantee they'd say yes.
Oh, you would say 99.9% of them would say yes.
Definitely. Because although it's taboo to talk about weight and things like that, like, yeah, it's uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable.
Well, it's interesting because it's taboo to talk about somebody who's overweight, but it seems to be fine to talk about somebody who's truly underweight. That doesn't seem to be an affliction, you know. But God help somebody if they start going, hey, look, and asking questions about somebody's health because they are overweight, and then they grab offense to it, you know. That's definitely a massive taboo here.
And it's like everything about it is energy, right? Because if I was to talk about them being overweight, merely I'd be doing it because I want them to feel healthier and comfortable and live a good, happy, healthy and strong life, you know? And if that means I have to have an awkward conversation with the client about them needing to, like, not like fucking go on the strict diet and everything like that. No! Fucking do acts of self-love that are going to make you feel good, going to make you feel energized, you know? Now, are you going to be the perfect body weight, the perfect shape, and like the perfect BMI? No, probably not. But are you going to drop some weight and feel better about yourself? Definitely. Are you going to start making wiser choices around the food that you eat, and the way that you move, and the amount of sleep you're getting? Hell yes. Because realistically, it's like, the reason that you are that way is because you're not actually looking after yourself.
Well, you don't hold yourself into the higher purpose, right? You don't hold your health into a higher regard. You know, because you have gone through whatever you've gone through in your childhood, you know, that you are holding on to and you're an identity and a victim of. For sure. So you're going to armor yourself up, make you make yourself as ugly as possible, so no one will love you. So you're validating your own story of no one wants me. I'm unwanted and unlovable, and you know, ultimately I'm a piece of shit. And so that's how you make yourself presentable to the world.
For sure.
And so that's you're validating, you're creating your own environment based off that, you know. And so this is why when you and I sit down with clients, it's just probing, hey, have you always been this big? You know, tell me about a time when you felt good in your body, you know, like, and it's just going back to those places, and it's bit by bit, because you can get to somebody to a little bit more self-love, that they're going to stick to anything better that's going to help them feel better, and B, it doesn't become a task that's a suffering task, right? They're not chastising themselves anymore. They're not dragging themselves to go for a walk. They're actually going, hey, look, I'm flipping this paradigm. I want to go for a walk. Definitely. You know, I want to move.
Definitely. And it ties back to shame, man. It ties back to shame,
very much so.
Because the fitness industry, the weight loss industry, one of the biggest industries in the world, has created these forms of getting people to lose weight extremely quickly, extremely unsustainably.
Do you remember that show, The Biggest Loser?
Yeah, for sure.
God, I mean, that was only on when we were youngsters, you know, probably like 10 or 11, I reckon. But I remember watching and going, wow, it's amazing. I look back now, and that has got to be one of the most detrimental shows to
hugely.
anyone's health of how fast and how intense they did that.
Definitely. Definitely. And then people will create more shame in their life because they'll try to force themselves to do the same thing without the medical support, without a personal trainer, without a nutritionist, and then they won't be able to do it, and it just creates more shame in their life. So they move back to emotional eating and back to beating themselves up, back to telling themselves that they're not fucking good enough, they're a piece of shit, they'll never be able to do it, instead of actually creating a lifestyle that feels good for them, that's sustainable for them, and they're just constant acts of self-love, right?
Yeah, there's
a whole lot in there.
Oh, there's a whole lot in there, but I mean it's good that we touched on it because it is a taboo, right?
Well, even when we started to communicate it, it was like, oh, what if I say something that's confronting to someone?
Correct.
And that's really, really interesting, because I know personally in myself that I have no judgment for people that are overweight because they've got to this point in their life for a specific reason. And yes, there is a few things that they could potentially do to self-regulate, move through past traumas, start looking after themselves. But it's like, what if someone doesn't know that that's what I mean, and I say something that offends someone, they get jealous and leave a comment saying I'm a piece of shit, that's fat phobic? Well,
look, someone's going to do that anyways, right? Because people will only hear through the lens that they want to hear. And that's the world we live in now. Like putting ourselves out there like we are starting to now, like this was going to grow, like this everything that we're doing is going to be huge. It's not going to not be.
Even
right?
that in itself is a taboo, Michael. How dare you be confident within yourself
enough
I know. To say that this is going to be huge, you arrogant prick.
Well, comment, I'm an arrogant prick. I'll put our love heart straight underneath it.
It's true.
But that's ultimately the payoff of this world we live in. It's understanding that you are going to have people who will hate you. You are going to people who will only listen to your message in the way that they are able to hear it. People will take offense to what we're doing. This is this whole woke fucking culture that's moving. It's ultimately just pandering to the few who are making themselves heard, and they are creating their own offense in themselves because they are so insecure in themselves that 80% of people who are just living their lives in whatever context they want to do, well, they're starting to change their systems and the way that language can be used, and I'm not for at all saying that to go out and anybody to abuse and to anything like that. What I'm saying is, if you've got a truth, then fucking speak it. That's becoming such a more taboo more and more and more now, because you can just get fucking written off the scale, right?
Cancel culture, right?
Oh, you can get written off, and then it's like, cool. But if you can really just make friends with, if that happens, it happens. You're not actually going to die. Whatever, reinvent yourself. You did it again, do it once more. As in taboo wise, it's definitely, that's got to be one of the biggest ones that's kind of running right now, is the ability to be able to speak what you would like to say.
Yeah, that's ultimately it. Allowing yourself to explore what you'd like to say, what you'd like to do, in like a non-judgmental way. Like, now, obviously, we say this. Hey,
well, we're all going to have biases.
Want to explore going out and murdering someone. We're not saying, hey, look, that's fucking okay. Of course it's not okay, because you're going to be causing harm to someone else. But if you want to do something within yourself and create safety and exploration, then go on, do it.
I agree. And I think that's whittling away. Whittling away more and more and more. As the fewer get louder and louder and louder, and they get more and more airtime, and their insecurities grow more and more and more. If anyone out there is in woke culture and wants to actually know who they are, come and have a rebirth with me and Ryan.
Definitely. The more you peel back the layers,
we'll peel back the layers. We'll help you actually find out who you want to be, and then you can go into the world and do it openly. But yeah, that's definitely a big taboo, isn't it? Big taboo is that whole freedom of speech.
Definitely.
Kind of.
Oh, I've got another good taboo.
Oh yeah.
Dropped in.
Oh, what was it?
Wow, the idea of physical immortality.
Oh, okay.
This is one that we explored when we were in rebirthing.
In our Rebirth workshop, yeah.
Oh, yeah, when we were in our facilitator training. So, the idea of physical immortality was something that just struck a chord in every single person in the room.
that was my most angry weekend. You remember that, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
It was like every other weekend I'm like just going with it, and this was the first time that we're supposed to come back this Sunday, and I was like, I don't want to go back.
Yeah, and you and many others as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm into more.
Yeah. Oh, well, reflecting on it after that weekend, I've been surrounded by death my whole life. You know, one of my first, conscious memories that I can remember is when I was 5 and woke up that morning, my brother had died. You know, so since the age of 5, there's been lots of kind of death running through my physical death running through my life. And so that was a program that was like, no, you physically die. That's it. You know?
I've seen it. Yeah. You can't tell me that's not a truth because I've seen it. Yeah.
Who the fuck are you to tell me?
Yeah, and that was pretty much it, right? Because there is that like religious conditioning around it, right? Like, there's a saying, right? Like, there's two things that that happens to everyone in life. One, you die, and 2, you pay taxes. So it's literally conditioned into us, the idea of dying.
Correct. And physical mortality, well, I mean, look, it's a lot softer now because obviously the context and it's taught through the rebirthing sector is you take away from the actual fact of this is my personal take on it was the body will die as everything does, and you change into the energy and you go back to your cycle of beforehand, and so in that context, yes, I mean you have immortality, right? The physical mortality, I mean there are some diehards. I mean our trainers Pauline and David, they're diehard physical mortalists, but they use that as the opportunity for them to constantly just keep their body as fresh and as beautiful, as cleansed and as possible. Like it's not a bad thing, They just go, yeah, I am, and the belief is that's the belief that they have, and they are constantly just tuning their body with all the what everything they eat is on point. They breathwork themselves every day or however they do, and they just constantly have that as a higher purpose, and it helps you push you to have more discipline in your life. Well, how is that a bad thing, I guess? Yeah,
definitely. And it is. It's just like it's the religious construct that creates the idea that like everyone's going to die, right? And like this is, I suppose, when it comes into the idea of physical immortality, for me personally, when we went into that weekend, it wasn't actually something challenging to navigate, because spending time in India, you hear about essentially people that are physically immortal, that are 700 years old, and so like going into it and you look at it, one of the persons who I think we spoke about it on the rebirthing, when we did the rebirthing episode, about where the origins of rebirthing came from, right?
From Babaji.
From Babaji, and he's essentially an immortal man. So this is sort of where that idea of physical immortality got came through rebirthing. But it's actually one of the key things that pushed people away from rebirthing and actually like bred new and different forms of it, right? Because people are like, that's way too confronting to be able to tell people that we can live forever.
Well, I mean, you look at what's his name?
Minotaur?
No. It's on the tip of my tongue. He does amazing podcast. He does all the regenerative farming stuff.
Oh, Dr. Zach Bush.
It's Dr. Zach Bush. I mean, he speaks about this all the time now, about the science of actual cellular structure, and I listened to a podcast of his, and he's talking about how his 72-year-old mum had died, and he went and did the autopsy on her, and he goes, there were still stem cells ready to replace the dead cells, and so he's talking about physical mortality predominantly, about our soul. Our cells just replicate the cell before. Our cells are a product of our thought and environment, of how they are produced and what the scheme of their environment. And so on a theory is that,
well, you're looking into epigenetics, right? Like, exactly. Not even a theory anymore. Like, they believe and understand, like, cells replicate based off a belief and a thought, right?
Well, correct, exactly. And so if you can be truly aligned with your thoughts and cells, I mean, there's ultimately the possibility that you could keep your cells at a level for eternity, I guess, you know, and he says something, he goes, oh, you know, people say that through medical research we'll be able to live forever to 200, and he goes, well, your soul's just laughing its ass off at that, because your soul's infinite, you know. Like have your 200 years, human.
It's like the ego still wants to put a number on it, right?
Correct. Yeah, and call it forever.
It's so funny. And and it is. It's really, really true, and it's a really, really interesting thing to explore with people, because there is so much resistance and like taboo around it. You know, that idea that, hey, look, someone can live forever, because people have so much death in their life. Now, Leonard Orr, the originator of rebirthing, he died. He didn't live forever.
I'm pretty sure most, if not all, of the physical mortalities have died.
Oh, definitely.
You know, but did they use that to a higher purpose, to make their lives and their bodies and their vessels and their divinity as strong as they can?
Yeah.
Great.
Well, and it's like, it goes into the idea, like, I'm going to live to 107. Like, that's like, I am so fucking sure in my mind I'm going to live to 107. I'm going to do everything and live the life that's going to allow myself to do that. Like, yes, now that potentially is creating a limitation, but at the same time, 107 sounds fucking good to me. And I was talking to someone about it at work, and I was like, God damn it, I'm going to live to 107. And I was like, oh man, I'm ready to clock out at 70.
Oh.
And I was like, man, if you say that you're ready to clock out at 70, you're literally going to do everything to make sure that you clock out at 70.
Oh, you'll be old at 60.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I'll still be sprightly as fuck at 60.
Yeah, can't wait.
Oh yeah.
And I suppose that is the idea around it, right? Like the idea of understanding epigenetics, understanding how your thoughts create your reality, how understanding how genes are just going to splice off other genes. So if we can actually keep our cells at a healthy level through the nutrition we're eating, through the environments we're living through, the positive mindsets we have, through managing stress in an everyday life, then why would you're going to live longer? Because you're literally putting your body, your mind, your spirit, everything in the ideal situation to be able to do so.
Yep. I mean, you look at Dr. Joe. He's getting younger and younger by the goddamn year.
Same with Zach Bush, man. You look at him; he's looks sprightly, like he looks good. Yeah. You can see them like anti-aging essentially in front of your eyes, right?
Although I see the same in us too. You know, like once we're really. I mean, I personally see myself, like I look at photos of me, you know, even 5 years ago, and I look so much older then than I do now.
Yeah, definitely. You know? Definitely, and same for me. Like this, I'm like 32 now. I don't feel 32. Even when people ask my age, I've got to think about it. And this would be physically the best shape I've ever been in my life. And even when I was boxing, like physically, mentally, emotionally, all of that. Because even when I was boxing, yes, I may have been in a greater physical state, but at the same time, it's like those other aspects of it weren't there.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time in my life where all I focused on was physical. You know,
it's all we were taught, right? Because it was taboo to talk about your mental health. It was taboo to talk about your emotions and cry and be vulnerable.
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah. Don't cry.
Don't cry. Never.
Men, cry. It's fucking beautiful and it's freeing, and all the beauty comes from just a good cry session.
Definitely.
I love it.
Definitely. But it's the same thing, man. Goes back to shame, goes back to guilt, goes back to judgment from what other people might think, right? You know?
Very much so. Brother, I think it's a bit of a wrap up. That was an explorative session. I really enjoyed that.
Man. It was a beautiful place to land.
Yeah. Just as a little patch here. Beta's flagship supplements, Focus and Sleep, well, they're going to be available very soon. They are almost here, and we are sharp as fuck. We're on it right now.
I think that's why the episode went so well.
Yeah.
I could feel it in the back of my mind.
Oh, it's good. So we can't wait to have it out to the world. This is just another branch of just the amazingness we are going to be bringing out to the world, team. The way that me and Ryan sit here and speak, this is how we are in everyday life with everyone that we are, and it's in our company. It's reflected in that too. And we're bringing breathwork to the world. It's already out there, but we're out there trying to make as much noise as we can to bring it in with these beautiful supplements. We've got workshops going on, and you know, if you listen to this, jump onto our website, have a look, and, you know, grab your support, because the more support we can have, the bigger we can take this to all around the world, and the more community we can create, the more tribe we can create, the more connection we can create. And that's doing your part for the world. That's doing your part for the world, doing your own work and getting in creating community, creating tribe, and it's all very exciting.
Oh, extremely exciting. Like, it's just waking up every single day with purpose and passion, and just trust, man. Trust.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever been sitting in trust so deeply in my entire life.
Same here, brother.
Trust in you, trust in myself, trust in what we're creating.
But you and I had to show up for that, bro. Like,
it's been years and years to land in this place.
yeah. So yeah, you guys get everything of us. There's no holding back. So, but anyway, thank you so much for listening. If you are here, tune in next week. We'll always bring in the goods. So yeah, we love you.
Thank you very much for showing up. Love you guys.